Hi, I'm Tony Russo, and this is In Case You Missed It from Kates-Boylston for the week ending Friday, August 9th, 2024. If you're joining us on video, I am sorry we had some technical difficulties and we only have audio this week, but we will be back in 2 weeks with everything back to normal. All sorts of announcements this week. I think the most important one, and even though it will take the longest to kind of sort out, is the recent lawsuit announced against Legacy Touch and 3 funeral homes in Illinois by Megan Mayo, Lauren Weiner, and Deborah Perlman. And they are trying to get together a class action lawsuit that says that Legacy Touch and those specific funeral homes acted in bad faith by taking fingerprints of the deceased without getting family permission first. We've covered this issue a couple of times, and there are links in the show notes. What is worth thinking about, and I wrote it in this coming week's editorial, is that no matter how the legislation shakes out, eventually this story is going to hit mainstream media and consumer media. And what that means is that consumers are going to be more aware that collecting thumbprints is, or fingerprints in general, is an issue someplace. And that means that there will be questions about it. So for now, the best thing I think anybody can do is make sure that your fingerprint policy is in good shape. Make sure that you have one, probably. Also worth noting, and it's difficult to say whether or not this is directly related or related at all. Illinois reduced the maximum fines for people who violated its biometric privacy policy law. The change came on August 6th, before the lawsuit was announced. And what it is aimed at doing is reducing the fines, which were $1,000 for each negligent violation and $5,000 for each intentional or reckless violation. Under the new law, a violation against one person counts as one violation, no matter how many instances there are. There is an argument about whether a non-living person has this kind of right to privacy, and we're going to be sorting all that out in the coming weeks. As I said, make sure you stay tuned to our weekly updates, and of course, if you're a subscriber, you will know what we know when we know it, or shortly thereafter. Colorado passed a transparency law this week to go along with their effort to make up for, I guess, everything that happened in Penrose, where the 200 or so bodies were found decaying. The new law will make it so that human tissue donation banks require explicit disclosures for body donations. It has to be well documented that the person requested this method of disposition. Other key changes include a prohibition on tissue banks paying funeral establishments for human remains, allowing only for the reimbursement of reasonable expenses like transportation cost. It also gives donors more control over what happens to their body after they die, and gives them the option to opt out of certain things that they may find objectionable, for example, military testing, overseas sales, or sales to private collectors, or to businesses that display human bodies. Recently, Cotton Funeral Home in New Bern, North Carolina, unveiled the results of a $1 million renovation that has been going on and off, I guess, since 2020. The renovation started and was put on hold a couple of times during COVID. What's interesting about this story, and again, link in the show notes, is that this is an SCI property, Service Corporation International property. And earlier this year, we spoke with Julie Busick, who is the Celebration of Life event manager for Dignity Memorial. And she's essentially in charge of making sure that funeral homes that have the space and the wherewithal can convert their chapels into something that is more appealing to today's consumers, that is make them better for celebrations of life, make them so that they can have round tables instead of just rows of pews. And if you look at the story in the In Case You Missed It section, you'll see that all of those things were done at the Cotton Funeral Home. The renovation also included an update of its crematory, which is important because the funeral director that they spoke with for the story explained that the demographics of New Bern are changing as more people from outside of the area retire there or move into North Carolina for work, and making the change from hardly any cremations to something on the order of 70 or 80% means that having the only crematory in the area that is functional puts them in a great position to serve more families more efficiently. The Baltimore Banner, a digital competitor to the Sinclair-owned Baltimore Sun, announced this week it was getting into the obituary business and partnering with Legacy.com. The Banner said it would run both paid and editorially driven obituaries, but what made this story really kind of stand out for me was that the Banner also has partnered with the Maryland State Funeral Directors Association as the preferred provider of death notices, which is a really important turn of events. I actually live in Maryland, and for the Maryland Funeral Directors Association to side with a non-Baltimore Sun publication to give them this privilege is really interesting. And again, we will follow up on this story and have more for you in later issues. Funeral Service Insider subscribers can go to Kates-Boylston.com and see the reporting that we've done on Matthews International's recent earnings call. The thumbnail sketch is that while Matthews reported a less than stellar quarter, and while memorialization was off for the quarter as well, it is the company very excited about its energy storage business, which it believes will, in the next 2 or 3 years, explode and become one of the company's main drivers. Right now, they are embroiled in a lawsuit with Tesla, and that is something that they're paying close attention to. They have in the past said that this lawsuit is really just Tesla's way of trying to force them out of the market and that they wouldn't give in to the bullying. I guess we will see. It's worth noticing that in last quarter's presentation, there was an investor who was complaining or upset that Matthews had kind of taken its eye off the ball, according to this investor, when it came to memorialization and was focusing too much on the tech side of its business. According to last week's earnings call, it looks like that kind of attention may continue into the future, and it will be interesting to see what happens to memorialization at Matthews International over the coming 2 years. Again, we will have more reporting on that as more information becomes available. Finally, a little bit of a fun back-to-school story. A.F. Crow and Son Funeral Home in Glasgow, Kentucky, held its second annual free haircut event at TT's Hair and Nail Salon, paying for the students who came in to get their haircut. The funeral director's name is Randy Chapman. Chapman worked as a hairdresser for 36 years and spent a large portion of his career at TT's. And now that he's a funeral director, he wanted to take the opportunity to try to give back a little bit. And this is a kind of fun promotion. He reached out to all of the hairdressers in the area, and several of them all kind of converged on TT's so that they could cover as many students as possible. At the last report, there wasn't a number of students who were served, although last year they served more than 40. I love these earned media stories, as we call them here, because it's just a funeral director or a funeral home doing something good in the community and getting a little good press for it, which is always nice. Make sure that if your funeral home gets any good press and you would like to share it with us, for us to share it with other funeral directors, reach out to me at arusso@kbpublications.com. You can reach me through the Kates-Boylston website, and I'd be happy always to share whatever you're interested in sharing with me. And that will do it for this week. In case you missed it, is a Kates-Boylston production. It was written and edited, but not videoed well enough for production by me, Tony Russo. As always, if you are listening to this on a podcatcher, please subscribe where you're listening. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube. We will be back with a video in 2 weeks. Next week, we are on vacation, so there will be no In Case You Missed It on August 16th, but I will be back on August 23rd with all the updates that I have and maybe some fun stories from all my fun vacation travels. If you have any summer left to have, I hope you enjoy it, and we will catch you next time on In Case You Missed It.